What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host, and my voice is giving. It's preseason, right? Regular season that started. I'm trying to make sure I'm ready so you're ready to know what I'm going to sound like on the Monday or the Sunday night after NC State home games, if the team is any good. We're going to do some NFL news and preseason recap, talk about some winners and losers. Joining me to do so. Essentially, like you're like not quite the fourth super friend, but like inching very closely. Tyler Sullivan, aka Sully, what's up, buddy?
The super acquaintance, I'll say for now. We'll get there a little bit
higher than that. I mean, like,
all right.
I mean, if I were you, I would just keep doing the podcast as much as possible, and then you're hoping that they're like, all right, Sully, you're just on the podcast now.
I think I'll just on my own get a tattoo and then just be like, yeah, that was it, right?
I was telling people about the tattoo situation over the weekend. I was in, I was just yelling with my friends down in, we went to, went and played golf down in Pinehurst. I played like crap. The 99 class of 99, lost the class of 98 in like in a Ryder Cup style format on like the 17th hole on the final round, which is tough scene.
That's
so awesome. We had to make them dinner and they made fun of us and whatnot, but it was a good weekend.
That's awesome.
Watched some football, played some golf, made some friends, laughed a lot. Obviously yelled a lot. Sully. Wait, what was I going to ask you? Oh, Debo. Actually, I know what I was going to ask you. Do we have an update on the voting situation for the People's Choice Podcast Awards?
We actually get those on like Monday afternoons or early Tuesday. So no update last. We were in second place in the podcast award voting. So appreciate everybody for getting us to second place, but continue to check your emails. If you happen to be one of those voters, we'd love your support the second time around, because that will equal a moment 10 times better than Ryan Wilson getting a tattoo. 100 times better.
You getting a tattoo?
Yeah.
Just for the record,
like a world-class Welcher in action. I still don't play Wilson.
A true Welcher in action, like a masterclass of welching.
And if history tells us anything, the second you get ink, you're going to want more. So,
Yeah, I know. Ryan Wilson is a second tattoo, which we've discussed on the podcast. By the way, so I think it was Dom in the chat mentioned yes, actually that is where my voice went now. We were, everyone in the house was wearing, I bet you see me wear the football club hat shirts on the podcast, or the football club hats.
Yeah.
Just big red, white letters. Didn't really think through the whole thing when I made them. Nevertheless, we're all wearing these like football club. I talk about down there because everybody's in the football club, but I talk about down there wearing football club hats, like cheering so aggressively for Florida A&M against North Carolina on Saturday night. I mean, yeah, my buddy Mike Glennon tweeted out that he thought is it Drake May, their quarterback, looked good, athletic. I don't know why I'm talking about this guy, but like I would be worried if I was a Carolina fan based on like, I don't know if you watched the game, but like Florida A&M, who was down 28 scholarship players, was getting like pushed on the interior of the offensive line. Like that's concerning.
Yeah, not great.
Yes. Anyway, let's get to news and preseason winners and losers. Winner, Baker Mayfield, I guess. I mean, like
he's been a winner, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's already been. Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, I'm gonna say he's not a winner. Like, there's no competition for him now. I mean, PJ Walker. Like, I would suggest that the Panthers are losers versus Baker a winner, and Sam Darnold's a loser too because he's missed several weeks as a result of an injury. But like, Sam Darnold wasn't stealing the job. It's just Baker now has. There's no short leash where if he struggles in the first 2 weeks, they might yank him out.
Right. That's what I was going to say. It's, as much as we're saying like, okay, well, the Sam Darnold injury, really solidifies Baker Mayfield. How bad would he have had to have been for them to make that decision? I think it would have to be like seismic, where they go, okay, it's going horribly wrong. It's not that we're just treading water. We are a winless football team, and he's thrown like 2 interceptions to his 1 or 3 interceptions to his 1 touchdown. And I don't think that was going to happen. So as much as the Darnold injury, I guess, further cements him as the starting quarterback, I don't know if we were ever really going to see an early change, even if he did struggle. It would have to be something crazy.
It's a significant, according to Matt Rule, high ankle sprain for Sam Darnold. I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, dude, a high ankle sprain if you're a quarterback, like, I mean, that's not something that you come back from. Really
Did they say which one? I
I
should have
was
just
just looking for that.
Okay.
It didn't. Matt Rule is confident that PJ Walker will be ready to go. Didn't say. I don't see.
Because obviously, if it's the back, if
This
it's
is
the right,
left ankle. Left ankle. Yeah, right
Okay.
would be worse.
right would be way worse. That's your planting foot.
Yeah.
And so, at least that's an encouraging sign for Darnold. But again, if you're turning to Darnold or PJ Walker or when he was healthy,
If
Matt
you
Corral,
needed Sam Darnold, the season's over anyway.
exactly. So
Yeah,
at
that's a
that
good
point, it's not necessarily like
Yeah.
Great.
Especially because they start out with Browns at home, at Giants, Saints at home, and Cardinals at home. Like those are four. I mean, I don't think the Panthers will be 4-0. They could start 4-0. Like they started 3-0 last year. I mean, obviously an easier schedule with the Giants, Jets, and Texans, but I mean, they could easily start 4-0 or 3-1 if Baker is competent. If you start 0-4 and you're like, oh no, we need another quarterback. Well, I mean, you're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
That means
And at
Baker
that point,
stinks. Yeah.
and at that point, I don't even know if you're looking at Darnold. Yes, you're looking at him in the sense that maybe you just need something to shake it up. But I don't know, is at that point where you're, calling up Cam Newton again, or you're doing, something, you're looking outside the organization, I think, at that point.
I wouldn't suggest this if Wilson and Breach were on here because of the scorn and they would not scorn, but like they would just make fun of me. But I have a good suggestion for a possible option for the Panthers to sign.
Okay.
You'll never guess who it is.
Let's hear it.
My buddy Mike Glennon.
All right.
It actually makes a lot of sense. Lives in the Carolinas, so he's close. His quarterback coach in Jacksonville was Ben McAdoo, the Panthers offensive coordinator. So he knows the system really well. He's not going to come in there and like threaten Baker to, to take the starting job. And I mean, like Matt Rule could say whatever he wants about PJ Walker being confident in him. Like, really? Like, I mean, I don't want to bash Temple football or anything, but like, if you've got 5 players from Temple on your professional football team, maybe it's a problem.
Well, you're just with him. Can he throw? Is he still looking good?
Actually, no, he wasn't down at Pinehurst. But
okay.
Yeah. But I saw him tweet about the Carolina guy.
I gotcha.
No, I think he's good to go. I think he's fully healed. And, it's one of those things where, if you're a veteran like him, there's going to be some injuries and there's you don't want to just jump into whatever, I think he's probably waiting now to see what kind of injuries happen.
My question would be, though, with something like that, like, what would be the difference between, Darnold, Glennon, PJ Walker? You might I know you're saying that there's the history there, but you also have 2 quarterbacks on the roster behind Mayfield that have been in that system.
Well, I mean, if Sam Darnold does not go to IR, then it's a moot point.
Yeah.
If they end up moving him to IR and which they should do, by the way, for like the purposes of like roster management. Because if he's going to miss 6 weeks, just put him on IR and you can bring him back. Then it would make more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Certainly could be a possibility. Obviously, I had to force that in there. Geno Smith, a winner in this preseason. By the way, these are not the Cody Benjamin.
I believe they're Cody.
Yeah. Not a great job by Drew Lock.
No. Was it 4? Did it finish with 4 interceptions? I think that's true. I knew he was sitting with 3 for a minute. I think he
3, but
I think he threw 1 late. But yeah, no, not a good performance from him. And he was somebody like, timing is everything here. It felt like he was possibly trending to at least start rivaling for the starting quarterback job. It was 3 interceptions, and so it felt like
24, 171 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. And the Cowboys don't ever play any of their starters.
No, and again, after that, it was the Kenny Pickett game in the opener where he played well, I thought, in the second half. Obviously, he had that fumble, that strip sack that opened the door for them to have that win. But he played well. I thought he played better than Geno Smith in that opener. Smith, it took a little bit for him to get going. He did have that final touchdown drive in the 2-minute. But all in all, it felt like Drew Lock was kind of the better guy in that game. And then he was working with the ones in practice, was going to start in that second preseason game, and COVID was the big speed bump there. And then it's kind of derailed since. So different timeline. You never know what could have happened, but it seems like it is Geno Smith's job right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, for sure. And I think the sort of the way that Drew Lock played on, I believe it's Saturday night. Was it Saturday night?
Yes.
Yeah, Saturday night against the Cowboys sort of encapsulates why Pete Carroll is going to go with Geno
Might have been
Smith.
Friday, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, who cares? Doesn't matter. Sometime over the weekend. It was on TV, I think. Maybe. But like Pete, I mean, I remember early in the offseason, people were like, what are the Seahawks doing? I'm like, oh, I got no clue. Like, I legitimately have no idea what the Seahawks are doing. And then I've sort of come around with this theory that I keep mentioning, but I really think that's what Pete Carroll wants to do is run back the 2010, 2011 Seahawks, where they think they have some good defensive players coming together to form a good defense. They have a good running game. There was Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker, the rookie. And at the same time, you want to just kind of turn games into grind sessions. And when you do that, what you're hoping is that the other team makes mistakes and that you don't make mistakes, because it's going to be a close game and you're hoping to win on like a weird situation. And I'm not saying Geno Smith is like the least turnover prone, quarterback of all time or anything, but Drew Lock is just, while he's got some flashes of great stuff, he is much more likely to give the ball to the other team or make a big mistake. And when you're trying to be that, you're trying to walk that final line, you really just have to go with the guy who, has more or like a lower ceiling and like a higher floor and a lower ceiling.
Yeah, you don't want a peaks and valleys kind of quarterback, and that's kind of what Drew Lock's been. You want somebody that can just kind of, he's not going to necessarily win you the game, but just kind of plateau it, manage it, and see what can happen. Now, the NFC West is not as competitive as it's been in recent years, but you're still having two Super Bowl teams in there, in the 49ers and the Rams, and we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with the Cardinals. I mean, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, they've talked about peaks and valleys. I mean, they've been great to start years and then they've fallen off, but that's still going to be extremely tough sledding in terms of divisional games for the Seahawks. So as much as we're saying they're going to slow things down, I mean, I think any one of those teams would be more than happy to kind of whittle it down and see what happens, with their defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. Rookie QBs named winners by Cody Benjamin, who did this article, by the way. Malik Willis had a big run. Sam Howell's just really been pretty good all preseason. And Kenny Pickett, I mean, if there was a rookie quarterback to keep the streak alive, Sully, the streak that we uncovered, by the way. Did I tell you that I texted Brady about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he got mad. I was like, 2007 was the last time it didn't happen. He's like, okay. I was like, because Jamarcus, didn't have the playbook and you were in your holdout. He's like, I did not hold out. That was not a holdout. It cannot be a holdout if you're not signed the contract. Technically, that is the rules. I was like, oh my God. It's not about you, man. I'm just telling you the factoid. I did not hold out. God, Brady.
Wrong side of history, I guess. Didn't want to be in there.
Well, no, it's interesting. Like, I've talked to him about this. I think on the podcast maybe, but definitely off it. And it's like back then, it's crazy too, because it's true. Like back in 2007, there's no social media. There's not nearly as many outlets. Like there's no blogs.
Right.
There's no team blogs. CBS did. I mean, I wouldn't work for CBS. CBS used to be, I don't know if people remember this, but it used to be AP copy. CBS would just post AP copy, and then Pete Prisco and Clark Judge and Mike Freeman would spend like 100-word opinion pieces up, and then they would write columns throughout the week. There was no I mean,
the only guy that was really doing that was like Simmons, right? Like he was the only
Simmons
guy.
wasn't blogging on a quick basis. I mean, what I'm saying is that in 2007, the Browns could leak out to 5 different media outlets that Brady Quinn is holding out, and even though technically he is correct, it wasn't a holdout. It was spun that way because the team controlled all the flow of information. Now it's like totally opposite.
Yeah,
Brady was holding out. He'd be like, listen, if that was the case, like, it's not a big deal because of the CBA, but he could be like, the Browns are negotiating in bad faith. I lost a lot of money with my draft fall. I'm not going to take less just because they're trying to, take advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's like what Roquan Smith did earlier this year. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Like Roquan Smith, the team would just leak out that Roquan Smith is being stubborn in negotiations, but now they can't. It's just interesting to me that like now you can't be as aggressive as a team. Anywho, Kenny Pickett, yes.
I mean, as much as Mitchell Trubisky's been playing well, he's been passing every test Kenny Pickett has.
Yep, absolutely. I think that I still stand by my, unless Kenny Pickett is just absolutely blowing Mitchell Trubisky out of the water, start Trubisky. And if you don't go 0-2, you kind of keep riding him and let Pickett just get some more, reps under his belt. Now, if you start 0-2, it's to Pickett. You pull and Pickett immediately, I think, if it's Trubisky's fault. Even 1-1, I think you could make the case.
Now, is there anything to be said for, I know we're talking about we don't want to ruin the prospect, and sometimes you don't want to, open the possibility of having to go back to Trubisky or whatever. Yeah. But is there also something to be said for like not wanting to thrust him in at any point either? Like, is there let's say like what happened with Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. Obviously, Herbert ended up being fine, but wasn't like he was the most prepared that day.
No, and he had a great game too. Like I was like thinking, oh my god, I think I lied to the Chiefs like 5 times because it's like they're gonna like when you or maybe I guess it happened before the game, right?
Yeah, I think yeah.
But it's like Herbert starting. It's like the line goes off, and it definitely moved because people didn't think he was gonna be ready to go. But I mean, yeah, like there's also something to be said too. It's like, listen, Kenny Pickett, you're our guy. Like Mr. Trubisky is not going to be there long.
No,
it's a 1-year job for Mitchell Trubisky. So you can say, Kenny, you're our guy. You played lights out. You're our first-round pick. You're the future of our franchise. Let's go. And that confidence, I think, does matter to a young quarterback.
Absolutely. And that's kind of, and if that's what happens, like if they decide to say, all right, we are going to just roll with Kenny Pickett. I don't even know if, I know that there were rumors that they were, listening on trade offers or whatever for Mason Rudolph. I would almost be more prone to move Trubisky at that point because I don't, it's like I said last time we were on,
Trubisky.
That's, and I feel like if there's any sort of struggles, there'd be more murmuring for Trubisky than there would be for Rudolph. So it's, you know what I mean? It's very similar to what we were saying last time about the Patriots, where it was, you can't really keep Cam Newton, but you can keep Brian Hoyer. There is, if anything, if Mac Jones struggles, you're going to look back at Cam Newton. If Kenny Pickett struggles, you're going to look at Trubisky.
Kenny Pickett is struggling, like nobody's going to be like, put in Rudolph.
Exactly.
If he's struggling, it's like Trubisky there. It's like, we got to win games, guys. Put in Trubisky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the other thing too, like, I'm the one who keeps bringing up that theory, but it's, like to play devil's avocado with myself. If the kid's not ready, like what's the point of like drafting him in the first place? If you don't think he can play day one at his age, like why did you draft him?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yep. All right. Malik Willis. I believe I'm trying to think how long the run was. I think it was like 50 yards. Yeah, it was long. It was a 50-yard. Yeah, he had 4 rushes for 79 yards, finished 15 of 23 for 131 yards, touchdown and a pick. All indications are though that this is still Ryan Tannehill's team.
Yeah, I think that's 100% certainty. Yeah. I don't think that there's
injury changes it, of course,
but I don't think that there's I honestly think even if he struggles to the point that we saw last year, where he's the interceptions are so high, I still don't know if they make that change. It would also have to reflect the record. If they're completely out of this thing and it's just they're that team that regresses and they're totally revamping, then you see him towards the end of the year, I think. But I think they kind of go down with the ship with Ryan Tannehill for this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vrabel is a Tannehill guy. Like he's his guy. Like he's just I don't think Mike Vrabel wanted them. I know Mike Vrabel didn't want them to trade AJ Brown because he said it in the freaking draft room. Or he says like he's like, as long as I'm coaching the Titans, we will not trade him. And then he was really mad in the draft room. And then I would guess that he didn't. I'm not saying they didn't like the idea of Malik Willis as a player or a prospect. He might love him, but I don't think he was I don't think he's enthralled about the way this is going down with Tannehill and like the contract and that's that's an ownership versus management situation.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. And again, I think that correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that there was a moment too. I don't know if Vrabel loves where Malik Willis is at currently in terms of where his development is as a passer, where it's all right, one read and then you're taking off, or you're already thinking about taking off before you even kind of make your progressions. And so, you see that, that still raw ability and still that you need that development as a passer. And I think that that's probably why there's a little bit of, nerves about the long-term future there. Obviously, I think it's great for the Tennessee Titans because I think that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too, unlike a lot of teams where you have this kind of breaking point at the end of the year with Ryan Tannehill, regardless. I mean, either you're going to redo his contract or you're going to move him because you're not,
probably unlikely to franchise tag.
Exactly. And so for me, it's you have a whole year for Malik Willis to develop as a passer. We already see the raw ability as a runner, but if all of a sudden you can kind of sit in the background in the NFL and just develop as a passer, you're going to give yourself a good option in 2023.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Sam Howell. I mean, I don't think Sam Howell is playing this year unless Carson Wentz gets hurt.
I don't think so. I think it's a nice preseason guy.
I think if you're so Panthers fans I was talking with some Panthers fans who are also State fans, and they were having the debate of would you want Sam Howell to like take the Panthers to a Super Bowl? And it's like, yeah, but I mean, Carolina can play. It's like Carolina, the Carolina quarterback with the Super Bowl, and NC State's QBU. It's like no. So it was a hot debate. Like one guy who's a huge Panthers fan was like, I don't care who it is, give me Sam Howell. I mean, Sam Howell in the 5th round versus Matt Corral. And I know that the injury's not his fault, but trading up in the 3rd round, Sam Howell looks like a much, much better pick
for sure.
At least right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're gonna really be talking about him after today. You know what I mean? Once something would have to go wrong with Wentz, which again, I guess that's totally possible. Yeah. I mean, it's,
I think,
but at that point, you're talking about Heineke, like that. That's kind of where we're at. Like, it's not automatically he's the next guy up. You're probably going back to Heineke.
I mean, I think what I've heard is that. And I could be wrong, but I understand that they want Sam Howell to be sort of do a redshirt year, let Wentz play. If something happens with Wentz, injury-wise, Heineke comes in. I think it would take a lot of Wentz struggles for Heineke to take over, to bench Wentz. It's obviously not out of the realm of possibility, but do the Wentz thing. Figure out if it's plausible for moving forward, and then maybe plan on Sam Howell as possibly the guy in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a break, and when we come back, more winners and losers from the preseason. All right, a loser from the preseason, a loser that we talk about way too frequently with Sully on the show, the Patriots offense. I mean. It's so bizarre just how terrible the Patriots offense is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that bizarre. It's just man, is this going to be this could be a bad football team.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I said last time, take the under on their win total. I mean, this is it. Not only do you feel like there's going to be regression from where they were in the standings last year, because, they at one point they were in the number 1 seed, but they kind of felt like they snuck into the playoffs towards the end or kind of fell into it. And I feel like you're going to see more of that team that was playing at the tail end of the season, as opposed to that team that was kind of on the upswing with a young quarterback. I'm very concerned about this offensive line. I mean, you kind of saw it in that preseason game against the 2s and the 3s of the Raiders. It wasn't even like they were going up against Max Crosby or Chandler Jones. And Mac Jones was constantly on the move, getting off his spot. And there were even certain points where he was getting spooked. There really wasn't even that much pressure, but there had been so much that he's already anticipating having to reset, having to move around. And when you're starting to talk about that, that is super concerning for a second-year quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I know we talk about this so much, and I don't want to beat it in the ground, but the Patriots are coached by the greatest head coach of all time, Bill Belichick. I mean, almost inarguably.
I was waiting for you to say Joe Judge, but okay.
The single greatest Giants coach of the last 2 years. But they're coached by Belichick. They have not been great since Tom Brady left, and Tom Brady's won a Super Bowl, and the Bucs continue to be good. And in a critical year where Belichick's getting, I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere yet, but he's getting older. And Mac Jones' second season, and you're thinking, man, they could, do they get back? Is this the year they come back and they're the Patriots again? And now you're changing your offensive strategy in terms of your run game. You're adding Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. Your Bill Belichick is he's installing the offense. It's all very, very I want to be wrong because I want Belichick to do great. Like I love Belichick being good. I don't root for the Patriots' demise. I don't think anybody does. But like, I mean, it's becoming increasingly, and you've said this repeatedly, it's increasingly difficult to believe that the Patriots are going to be any good. Like you sent a request for division picks earlier today, and I was like, I was like, the first one I wrote down in my drafting was AFC East, and it was like, one, this is the easiest pick of all, and then two, it's like I'm not even doubting. I would much rather doubt Bill Belichick at this point than doubt Josh Allen, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's true. It's weird when you put it in that context, but for sure, like there is more of a it's weird. Over the last few years, it's been slam dunk Patriots. That it's been the easiest division to pick.
20 years,
but now it is, but it's just a totally different team. And for me, like I was saying, I'm concerned about the secondary, specifically the cornerback spots. I'm concerned about the offensive line. I'm more concerned about them ruining Mac Jones, though. Like, as much as 2022 could be a bad year, I'm concerned about what 2022 could do to Mac Jones. If you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because if all of a sudden they start kind of breaking him, you're left with a really weird and bad roster, because I believe they're spending the most amount of money in the NFL, I think it's cap wise. I think they're spending the most amount of money when you combine the pass catchers of wide receivers and tight ends in the NFL. I believe, yes. And I believe that's true. You might have to throw in running backs, but I don't know. I don't think it's running backs. I think it's when you put wide receivers and wide receivers and tight ends together, they're spending the most in the NFL, or at the very least it's top 5.
How is that possible? And they're not that good.
Well, it's Jonnu Smith, it's Hunter Henry, it's Al Galore, it's Bourne. They went so hard at the skill position players last offseason, and you're still going into a year now where you're wondering who the number one guy is, and whether or not it could be Devontae Parker, who you had to acquire this offseason, or you still had to invest a second round pick in Tyquan Thornton, who's not going to be a factor now. And so if you're Robert Kraft and you're looking at all of this, you're saying, hey, listen, I've invested. I have helped. I'm not saying that he's going to obviously fire Bill Belichick. That's not what's going to happen. I'm not suggesting that.
Do you want to say it's time to fire Bill Belichick on the podcast? And let's social clip it and tweet it out.
I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, that would ruin your life for like a week at least.
But what I'm saying is that drum will beat maybe for the first time. It's only going to be a small drum beat.
I feel like you've actually said this or like alluded to this earlier in the offseason, where it's like, of course, it's like impossible to fathom the idea of Bill Belichick being fired by Robert Kraft. Like, I delivered you 6 Super Bowls, but Robert Kraft did not want to get rid of Tom Brady. And if the Patriots had Tom Brady, they would be a better football team. And that's not offensive to Mac Jones. He's just not effing Tom effing Brady.
Right.
Like, they would be a better football team.
You also have to remember, too, this is an offseason where Kraft himself has been on record saying,
yes,
we haven't been to the playoffs. I want to get to the playoffs. Or we haven't won a playoff game in 3 years. Obviously, they went last year. We haven't won a playoff game in X amount of years, dating back to 2019 when it was Tom Brady's last run. They lost in that wild card game to Tennessee. He's going on record saying that he's setting a bar. And if all of a sudden you fail to meet that bar and you're regressing at the most important position, there's going to be obviously not some firings, but there's going to be some long talks about how we're operating on the day-to-day.
Yeah. I remember now thinking back to that, there was a Tom Curran column about it. And, is Robert Kraft playing a dangerous game with Bill Belichick? And, you look at Jerry Jones. I mean, when you get old, you get older, you got a lot of money, you can do what you want. There starts to be some finality to things, and maybe you have regrets, and you just want, you want the success now. And you've already lost Tom Brady, so I don't know what you do if you're Robert. You can't buy Bill. We'll figure it out with.
You really can't do that. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You can't even really do it because of that decision. You chose. At the end, you do own the team. You could have made that decision. You could have went with Brady instead of Bill. You chose to
back
do
the
it
coach.
Bill's way.
You got to back the coach.
You kind of got to see that thing through.
I think it would need to be there's a 0.000000001% chance that Bill Belichick would be fired.
He'll never get fired. It'll be a
mutual
parting ways,
retirement. But what if they went 7-9 in back-to-back years?
That wouldn't do it.
Okay, 5-11. 7-10. Sorry.
Yeah,
5-12.
It would have. Yeah, it would have to be
5-12 back-to-back years would be and that won't happen either.
Right.
Like
But
the
my thing
Patriots,
is that it would need to be jarring. Like you would have to like, oh my goodness, what happened? You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's where it is. And so, it's concerning right now because obviously, they don't have they have an easy middle to their schedule, but like the beginning is not easy. And then that tail end's tough too. They're going to Miami, you're going to Pittsburgh, you host Baltimore, and then you go to Green Bay. I'm not saying that's 0-4, but that's likely. I mean, that could happen.
yeah. I mean, again, like I know I'm not trying to. The Patriots were like plus 250 to win the Super Bowl in 2007. It just was like we see. So I'm not suggesting that like
Yeah,
any
I know what
team
you mean.
but like there's no way they're playing possum, right? That cannot be what they're doing.
They're not good enough. They're
I
not good enough to
refuse to
do it.
believe that's the only other that's the only option. It's either the Patriots suck on offense or they're playing possum. And
They're
I
not
think
good
it's
enough to
much
play
more likely
possum.
they suck on offense.
Yeah, they're not good enough to do that. It's not like because at that you have to at that time too. They still did have Tom Brady. Like
Yeah.
it's not like it was
But they're plus
2002.
250 to win the Super Bowl. That's insane. Like
Yeah.
that's like that's a crazy number.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's just I don't think that this is one of those years. They haven't been that team. You know what I mean? The variable is that they had Tom Brady. Then they
I
don't
mean,
have
just,
him now.
yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's Patriots might suck. Did not see that coming. Denzel Mims, after requesting a trade, at 7 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. I love like these. It was like second rounders with zero production who just like I want to trade. It's like okay, like I mean, sure, Denzel, we'll see what we can get for you on the market. And the answer is nothing. Like N'Keal Harry's like, I demand a trade. It's like, I demand that you do something on the field. Like, I demand some production.
I would demand you to have some sort of production so your trade value is anything. But I guess now Mims is doing it on the preseason field. So
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like you see Denzel Mims go up. I mean, like I think the Panthers were interested in it maybe. I wouldn't mind a flyer with a late pick for Denzel Mims. I mean,
no,
it's Baylor guys, so like the Big 12 guys haven't worked out particularly well in terms of transitioning to the NFL. Maybe that's schematic stuff. I mean, generally speaking, that's not an exact science. But he's a burner and he's got some skills and he's a high pick. I wouldn't mind a flyer on him.
I think Dallas makes a ton of sense. They're still trying to figure out that wide
I
receiver.
mean, that wide receiver room is concerning for Dallas.
So that is an area there as well. So I think that they will end up trading him just because there's no real use for him. They have Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. It's they have their kind of wide receiver room set. Again, the crux of the trade request is that he wasn't being used in first team reps or anything along those lines. Hasn't been able to build any reps with any of the starting quarterbacks. So I think at some point they move him. I don't know how much this performance changes anything. I mean, I guess if he stung up the joint, it wouldn't be great. So I guess it helps a little bit, but
it doesn't really. I mean,
I don't know.
It's clearly like, hey, everybody, we're calling plays for Denzel Mims, like 7 catches. Like,
exactly. It's like, okay, let's see if we can boost this guy's trade value up a little bit. Let's just zero in.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're really like we understand what you're doing. You're trying to make Denzel Mims look awesome, so somebody will give up something for him. I just can't see them giving up a ton. I mean, like
that's a day.
I don't want to fire, but just don't. If the Panthers give up a 4th round pick for him, then they're idiots.
Yeah, no, that's a conditional day 3, 6 that turns into a 5 at the most type of thing.
By the way, Brian Robinson was shot in a car, and a victim in an attempted robbery and/or carjacking. The NFL.com reports he was transported to an area hospital. He has put on Instagram that he was that he's doing fine.
Yep,
the surgery went well, but I mean that's a scary scene, man.
Yeah,
I don't know what they. He looked like he was going to take the job from Antonio Gibson. Basically, I don't know. He was shot in the glute and lower leg. I have it would be quote a matter of time before he's released and back with the team. There's no timeline for his return. I mean, I can't imagine you force him back super early, right? I've to be honest, like I claim to be a doctor sometimes. I have no extensive knowledge of like what the timeline for a return from a bullet wound is.
Yeah, and so this is again speculation, but the fact that they had to obviously like go under and have surgery, you don't know what that necessarily means. Are they repairing ligaments and tendons and muscles, or are they extracting a bullet, or did it go clean through? Like, those are logistical questions that you have to know from a football standpoint. Obviously, the dude's lucky to be alive, and that's the most fortunate thing there.
For sure,
but,
yeah. I mean, football comes second, but it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how you do a timeline for that, you know?
yeah, I think that, again, we know so little about the extent of his injuries.
Right.
Again, you know, at that point, you're just listening to make sure you hear non-life threatening, and that's kind
Right.
of
Well,
all you
and,
look
and
at.
the other thing too is that, like, you know, it's, you know, did it go through? Is it, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause
hard.
those-
Yeah.
that makes a difference. I mean, it you know, again, not a
I mean,
not like-
obviously, forensic science expert here.
exactly.
So
So
senior forensic analyst at senior CSI Sully. Is what
Yeah.
I'm looking at.
that's me right there. But you know, good that he's healthy. But from a football standpoint, yeah, it's a tough break for the Commanders, because it did feel like he was gaining on him. As much as Dameon Pierce is getting all the headlines for being that rookie running back, Robinson was another one where he was pretty much the guy. And so I don't know what this necessarily means for Antonio Gibson if he just goes back to that role probably.
Yeah.
And
I think
nothing
Gibson,
ever happened.
I mean, yeah, I think Gibson probably becomes the guy, and then they work Robinson in as they
Yeah.
as he gets healthy. But yeah, Gibson. I mean, certainly they're probably glad that they kept that they brought JD McKissick back and did not lose him.
Yeah.
To the Buffalo Bills from where he was headed. I'm trying to see if there's any other. Mike Tomlin, by the way, this QB choice. We'll disclose it at our leisure. I like that.
That's awesome.
That's way better than like, oh, we'll let you know for the third preseason game. It's like, at my leisure. I'm going to tell you when I tell you. I don't care.
I mean, that's how he wants to run it. And speaking of the Steelers, too, one news item out of them too is last night Najee Harris said that he was dealing with a Liz Frank sprain. So, you know, we've seen this a lot over the last few years with these Liz Frank injuries, and those are season enders. I mean, Travis Etienne missed all of his rookie year with this thing, and so
actually,
obviously
they had Deontay Johnson and TJ Watt get hurt too. Like, very bad preseason game for the Steelers.
And so this was something that Harris was. This isn't something he dealt with in the preseason game. He made his debut last night, but he suffered this injury at the start of training camp. I believe it was the first padded practice.
Right.
And so it was a 4 to 6 week recovery. He's basically in like week 4 now. So he's expected to be ready for the season, but certainly a little bit more of a severe injury than what we were led to believe at the beginning.
Yeah. And I was talking with my buddy Adam Cole about this. He's like, which one's the most worrisome? I was like, well, TJ Watt, just because, you know, I mean, Najee Harris is a great player, but you can replace Najee Harris. Like, you can find a volume back. Yeah. And I think that the defense will be more important to the Steelers this year than the offense, even though the offense may determine how good the Steelers are. Like, if the defense, if like you lose TJ Watt, it's a serious loss. The thing about Najee with that Liz Frank, man, like, it's like, oh yeah, it's just a sprain. It's like, if you have a Liz Frank sprain, first of all, a sprain is a tear. Again, doctor. But if you run on a torn Liz Frank, and you're like, maybe it'll just work out. No, it's things going to tear the whole way. Like, I would be that would be concerning for me if I'm the Steelers.
And we're talking about a back who just led the NFL in touches and was joking around this offseason saying, I'll take 500 touches if it takes the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. You know, I know you invest, you know, I think we look at running backs a little bit more now than ever as like these disposable kind of pieces. But this is a first round pick. This is supposed to be one of your key pieces to this offense going into the year, especially if you're going to go with, you know, Kenny Pickett at some point. You're going to really rely on that young running back. And so, yeah, not great when all of a sudden you're talking about something as severe as a Liz Frank, because once that thing goes, you're talking about a full calendar year in terms of a return.
It feels like, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure my buddy Colin Bear is going to DM me again about, you love the Ravens so much. Like, a big Bengals fan, listen to the podcast. I lost a bet about the Bengals winning the division with him at one point. I can't remember, but anywho, like, I kind of feels like things are falling in place for the Ravens in this division.
Yeah,
you know, a bunch of injuries, not even cluster injuries to stars for the Steelers. Deshaun Watson is going to miss 11 games, and you know the Bengals are a very talented team, but like, you know, Joe Burrow burst appendix. You know, that's going to it changes things a little bit, right? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how much that really changes things in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, like, it just like, or maybe we say good breaks for the Ravens and Bengals.
Sure,
you know, like if the Browns and the Steelers stink, there's a really good chance that both the Ravens and the Bengals make the playoffs.
And just when you look at it from a strength of schedule and all that stuff, one's playing on a first place schedule, the other one's playing on, I think, a last or a third place schedule.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the Ravens are the very obvious worst to first team.
Yes.
They finished last. I mean, the other one I would pick would be the Jaguars, I think. Let me double check. Our regular season.
Yeah, has to be right. Yeah, I'm
Gold-
trying. Yeah,
Gold
I
has to
just
be
ran
listed
through.
too.
Yeah, it has to be.
The Ravens, I mean, the Ravens are just the pick.
Yeah.
You're not going Jets. Jaguars would be a good one. Broncos is another one you could possibly go with.
Yep.
Giants, Lions, Panthers, Seahawks. Yeah, I mean, I would say the Ravens are the clear cut first.
Yeah.
Kenny Galladay's a loser. Anything we need to say about Kenny Galladay? I mean, Kenny Galladay.
They're not cutting him.
What a disaster signing. They can't cut him, can they?
I no. I think it's like millions and millions of dollars. It doesn't
$100
make,
or something
yeah,
on the salary cap. It's like
it doesn't do anything.
they gave him a 4-year, $72 million contract. That's not. Oh no, they would save $10 million. Am I reading that wrong?
I think you might be reading that wrong.
Is it
Year
the
2,
other
they
way?
could clear that much?
Oh no, that's right. If they release him, they would lose $10 million.
Right.
Salary cap
That
space.
makes sense.
He's sticking around. They could actually cut him. No, they would save $0 in cap space if they cut him after June 1st. Well, it's after June 1st, obviously. But yeah, he's not going anywhere. Kenny Galladay's here to stay. Boy,
Yeah.
that was a bad signing.
Not
Good job.
ideal for them.
Yeah, not ideal. Anything else that we are missing from the world of football?
I think that might be it, man. I think
There's
we're
an
rocking
Alexander
good.
Madison trade rumor for the Vikings.
Yes.
Okay. Kind of weird. Right?
He's going into a final year of his deal, I think. I think it's just one of those due diligence moves, but I wouldn't move him if I were Minnesota because we all know Dalvin Cook is bound to miss 2 to 3 games a year, and he is one of the premier backup running backs in the NFL. I mean, I love it for fantasy as a Dalvin Cook guy. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it. Like, you just draft Alexander Madison.
I mean, they drafted Ty Chandler in the 5th round, and they have Bryant Kovac and Kene Nguanu, but like, wait, that may be one where it's these agents like floating it out too. And then who was the other person that was rumored? I was like, the Giants are interested in possibly trading or exploring like a Darius Slayton trade. And somebody pointed out, they're like, is it when you hear that from a team, is it 99% of the time they're about to cut the guy and they're just trying to get something for him? It's like, yes, absolutely. Or like when it's right before cut day and a team's like, ooh, Darius Slayton could be on the trade market. It's like Darius Slayton's going to cut.
That's usually what it is. I mean, again, this is going to be a crazy 24 hours, 4 p.m. on Tuesday is when they have to get down there. So we'll see what happens. I mean,
so you know that when back in the day before you were blogging your face off, that the cut day was on Saturday.
Yeah. I think we've talked about that before. It sucks.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, you probably had to deal with the sun, but like every Saturday on Labor Day weekend, you're like, listen, I would love to write about Darius Slayton being cut, but I have to go get. Well, I'm not going to say what I was doing. I definitely wasn't at a tailgate.
Brinson, you want to tease the live cut show tomorrow?
Are you messing around?
No.
Oh yeah. Well, crap.
At least it's not a Saturday.
I was just going to say, at least it's not a Saturday.
Oh my God, we would have to do a live show on Saturday. That would be so annoying if they changed it. Thank you for changing it, NFL. So 4 p.m. tomorrow, live cut show.
Going through
Because
every single.
obviously, I'm so locked into this. I can tell you exactly who's going to be on the show. It's going to be me, Wilson, Breach, and Debo will be in the house. As to find out, Debo will live react as the Eagles decide whether or not Jalen Reagor is a bust after just 2 years. Incredible.
I'll also highlight we locked in Sully for weekly Tuesday appearances at a minimum during the season.
Love it.
So don't be afraid. You've probably got accustomed to hearing him on YouTube on Wednesdays, pod on Thursdays, but Sully will be with us during the NFL season.
It's very exciting. You stuck with me.
No, I love having you on, Sully. You're fun to talk to. Okay, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For Sully, I'm Brinson. We will see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. for our live cut show, which I've been so thrilled about for like weeks and weeks on end. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Later.